You've been lied to about genius. You've been told it's a gift, something you either have or you don't. A lottery ticket stamped into your DNA before you even take your first breath. But watch carefully, because when you look closely at the lives of so-called geniuses, scientists, artists, inventors, strategists, a different pattern appears. Not magic, not fate, but habits. Patterns of thinking and behavior that quietly, relentlessly reshape the brain. Tonight, I want to show you those patterns. Not in a cheesy 10 tips to be smarter way. We're going to walk straight into the engine room of intelligence, into attention, memory, creativity, problem solving, and break down 7 habits that turn an ordinary brain into something extraordinary. If you stay with me until the end, you won't just understand how geniuses think. You'll walk away with a blueprint to start building your own genius-level mind. This is PsycheLogos. Let's begin. Before we talk habits, we need to destroy a myth. Genius is not a single number. It's not just IQ. It's not a test score or a label or some mystical spark. Your brain is not a fixed machine. It's a living, changing network, constantly rewiring itself in response to what you do, what you think about, and what you repeat. Every time you focus deeply, every time you struggle with a hard problem, every time you push your understanding 1 inch further, you are physically sculpting your brain. So the real question is not, am I a genius? The real question is, am I living like someone who is building a genius-level brain? And that is what these 7 habits are about. Let's start with the one almost everyone ignores. Habit 1. Geniuses don't collect answers, they hunt questions. Most people move through life trying to have opinions. Geniuses move through life trying to have questions. Think of Einstein not as the man who had the answer to relativity, but as the man who asked, what would the universe look like if I rode on a beam of light? Behind every breakthrough, there is a question so sharp it cuts reality open. Most people consume information. Geniuses interrogate it. They are haunted by specific problems. They chase them for years. They rewrite the question, refine it, sharpen it, until the problem becomes inevitable to solve. So if you want a brain that feels genius level, stop asking, how do I memorize more facts? Start asking, what question am I actually trying to answer with my life right now? Is it, how do I build a body of work I'm proud of? How does human behavior really work? How can I design systems that don't break under pressure? Whatever your field, pick a question, then build your learning around it. Tiny habit. At the top of your notes, your to-do list, your journal, write 1 question. Live with it for a week. Every article, conversation, and video you consume, connect it back to that question. You'll feel a shift. Your brain stops being a random storage unit and starts becoming a weapon pointed at a problem. Habit 2. Geniuses design their attention like architects. Intelligence is not just about what you know. It's about how long you can stay with something that matters. Most people's attention looks like this. Notification, scroll, message, new tab, stimulus, distraction, repeat. Their brain isn't weak, it's just fragmented. Geniuses, on the other hand, cultivate something rare in the modern world. Sustained, uninterrupted, obsession-level focus. They build rituals around deep work, stretches of time where one problem dominates their entire mental field. No multitasking, no endless tab switching, no checking 5 apps while pretending to think. Because here's the brutal truth. If your attention is constantly being hijacked, your intelligence never gets the chance to fully switch on. A genius-level brain is not fast, it's deep. So ask yourself, when was the last time I spent 90 minutes completely undistracted on a single problem? If your answer is, I can't remember, then that's your leverage point. Tiny habit. Start with 25 to 45 minutes, 1 block per day, phone in another room. Only one task: think, write, calculate, design, or learn on something slightly above your current ability. You will feel resistance, restlessness, boredom. That's not a sign of failure. That's the sound of your attention detoxing. Stay with it. Over weeks, your ability to hold complex ideas in your mind extends. Connections appear. You stop skimming life and start penetrating it. Habit 3. Geniuses don't just read, they build mental networks. Most people treat knowledge like a shopping spree. They hoard books, videos, courses, quotes. Their brain becomes a crowded warehouse of disconnected items. Geniuses treat knowledge like architecture. They build structures. When they learn something new, they don't just say, "Interesting." They ask, "Where does this fit in the structure I already have?" Piece by piece, they construct a mental map of their domain. That's why they can explain complex ideas so simply, because in their mind, everything has a place. If you want to unlock extraordinary intelligence, stop thinking in terms of information and start thinking in terms of models. A mental model is a pattern, a way the world tends to work: cause and effect, feedback loops, incentives, trade-offs, systems. Geniuses collect these models, combine them, test them, refine them. Tiny habit. When you learn something, don't just highlight it. Ask 3 questions. What is the key idea here in 1 sentence? Where does this connect with something I already know? When would this actually be useful in my life or work? Write those down. You are not just storing data, you're wiring a network. And networks, not isolated facts, are what intelligence runs on. Habit 4. Geniuses practice thinking like a skill. You can practice basketball, you can practice piano, you can practice public speaking. But most people never intentionally practice thinking. Geniuses do. They write, they sketch, they build arguments, they break their own arguments, they run thought experiments, they simulate conversations. To them, thinking isn't something that just happens in the background, it's deliberate training. Here's the subtle difference. Most people consume and react. Geniuses generate and refine. Tiny habit. Once a day for 10 to 15 minutes, pick one idea and externalize your thinking. Write a 1-page argument, sketch a diagram, record a voice note explaining a concept as if teaching a younger version of yourself. Then, this part matters, try to break it. Where is it weak? What assumption am I making? What counterexample could destroy this? Genius-level thinking isn't just smart thoughts. It's thoughts that have survived their own scrutiny. Your brain sharpens every time you do this. You become less easily manipulated, less easily confused, more precise. And precision is a form of power. Habit 5. Geniuses respect recovery like athletes. This might be the most underrated habit of all. We romanticize the image of the sleepless genius, working all night, eyes red, fueled by caffeine and chaos. But look closer. The smartest minds over a lifetime are not the ones sprinting themselves into burnout. They are the ones who understand that the brain is biology. Neurons need cycles. Synapses need consolidation. Ideas need incubation. Geniuses value sleep, solitude, and strategic boredom. They go on long walks, not because they're lazy, but because they know that some of the deepest thinking happens when the brain is allowed to wander. Your subconscious is a quiet supercomputer, but it can't do its job if you never give it off screen time. Tiny habit. Protect 3 things with almost sacred discipline. Sleep, enough to wake up without an alarm most days. Walks or movement without headphones, time for the mind to drift and connect dots. Offline reflection, a few minutes away from screens with a notebook or just your thoughts. You don't become a genius by squeezing more hours out of a tired brain. You become a genius by cycling intelligently between intense focus and deep recovery.
Let's review the quantum entanglement sequence again. The stabilizers won't hold if the primary variables are missing.
Habit 6. Geniuses learn by teaching and building. Notice something. When you try to explain a concept to someone else, you suddenly see all the holes in your understanding. This is why some of the smartest people in history were also teachers, writers, letter writers, journalers, builders. Geniuses don't just sit with ideas in their head, they externalize them into essays, lectures, prototypes, experiments. Because when you teach, reality gives you feedback. When you build, the world pushes back. Your idea either works or it doesn't. Someone either understands it or they don't. Geniuses actively seek this friction. Most people avoid it. They hide their half-formed thoughts. They wait until they feel ready. Geniuses use teaching and building to become ready. Tiny habit. Once a week, take one thing you're learning, a psychological principle, a strategy, a concept, and write a short thread or post about it. Explain it to a friend, or build a tiny project using it. Don't wait for perfection. Every time you do this, you're not just sharing what you know. You're tightening the connection between theory and reality in your own brain. And that is where true intelligence lives, in the space between understanding and application. Habit 7. Geniuses curate their identity and environment. The final habit is subtle, but it's the one that quietly controls all the others. Geniuses don't just have habits. They have an identity and an environment that make those habits easier. They see themselves as, I am the kind of person who follows my curiosity until it yields insight. I am the kind of person who does deep work every day. I am the kind of person who would rather understand one thing deeply than skim 100 shallow things. And then they surround themselves with tools, people, and spaces that support that identity. Their environment is full of cues, books within reach, notebook always nearby, distraction-blocking tools installed, friends who value ideas more than gossip. Compare that to the average environment. Phone on the bed, notifications always on, zero visual reminders of long-term goals. People who pull you into drama, not depth. And we wonder why genius feels rare. It's not just the brain, it's the context that brain lives in. Tiny habit. Change your identity script and one environmental cue. Identity script. I am a serious student of your field. I treat my mind like an athlete treats their body. Environmental cue. Put your phone in another room during deep work. Keep a notebook open on your desk. Put one symbolic object where you can see it. A book, a quote, a model that reminds you who you're becoming. Over time, your surroundings and your self-concept stop dragging you back and start pulling you forward. Pause and imagine something with me. You, 1 year from today, same genetics, same basic hardware, but for 12 months you've been hunting sharp questions instead of passive opinions, designing deep focus blocks into your days, building mental networks, not just consuming content, practicing thinking as a skill on paper and out loud, respecting recovery, sleep, and reflection like an elite performer, teaching and building to solidify what you learn, curating an identity and environment that signal every day, I am building a genius-level mind. Do you really think that version of you would feel average? Do you really believe they would see problems the same way, speak the same way, create at the same level, collapse under the same pressures? Of course not. Because this is the secret. A genius is not just a person. A genius is a process, a way of living, repeated over time inside a brain that adapts to everything you ask of it.
A genius is a process of adaptation, not a gift.
So here's my question to you. Which of these 7 habits are you willing to start living this week? Not all 7, not perfectly, just 1 or 2 at a tiny but relentless scale. Is it 1 daily deep focus block? 1 hard question at the top of your notes? 1 page of thinking practice? 1 walk with no headphones? 1 attempt at teaching what you've learned? Choose it. Write it down. Because the difference between interesting video and new trajectory for your life is not what you heard. It's what you repeat. This is PsycheLogos. If you're serious about building a mind that's not just informed, but truly extraordinary, then don't just admire the habits of geniuses. Live them, 1 decision at a time, and your brain will have no choice but to rise to the level of your life.